How do you know when and if it's worth it to expand into other platforms?
Yeah. So for other platforms, it's because it's a couple things. So there's two kinds of clients. There's the client who is native to X and it's their first platform. So if they're that client, then in my opinion, you need to hit $20,000 to $30,000 a month before you can even think about going to other platforms, because that's really your validation phase. Granted, it also depends on kind of what your offer size is and what your niche is. That being said, for like a typical how to make money offer, that is like $30,000 a month plus just on Twitter is like, all right, maybe you can now start to go into other platforms, because basically the way it works is you'll go up to $30,000 a month plus. You'll need to hire a closer, because if you're getting 4 or 5 calls a day, you pretty much have no time to do anything else if you're founder closing at that point. So you hire a closer, they take your time back. Then you can now use that newfound time to go and do video. And basically, once you're above, then all you're ever focused on is video. That's pretty much what it looks like for someone who's native to X. The other person is the person who's already doing other platforms and they're coming to X as like an additional platform. At that point, they're already doing them. So usually, I've never met anyone who's LinkedIn native. So usually it's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then they want to go to X, and then the last platform that they ask about is either email or LinkedIn. In that case, we'll tell them how to do it right away if they want to, but most of the time they're just like, I don't need to go on LinkedIn.
This is interesting because the way I see it, and again, like it's okay to disagree with stuff because there's many ways to score a goal, right? But the way I see it, priority is always email. Like no matter what platform you build in, it's just take people to the email list. And if one is working well, just do one. Like that's how I think about it, because it's like expectations. If you pitch on social every time or every day, it's like a little bit like weird, because people go on social to be entertained. But when someone joins your list, it's a request for help, not knowledge. It's help. So if they join your list, then it's okay to pitch them every time. So that's why my priority lately has always been not always, but lately it's been just grow the list. And then for me, that's the most powerful channel.
For me, it's like I've seen so many businesses hit $100,000 a month without even touching email and just having being a one organic platform. And then they're like, okay, I should probably do email. So I guess there's multiple ways. I've had a client that came in at zero, didn't even have a product, just an idea. We built out the product with him, launched him on X. He hit like 20, 30K a month. Then he expands to Instagram, and Instagram turned into a 100K a month channel by itself, while Twitter was still like 20, 30K a month. I was like, and they were using our copy, and I was just like, oh fuck, like I would get a piece of that pie. But it was still great to see, because I'm like, some people just hit on different channels, and I think that's also important too, because I don't think every offer will hit on just X or hit best on X. I think some offers will absolutely max out on Instagram, some will max out on X, some will max out on LinkedIn, some will max out on email. So I think that's also important. That's why it's important to expand, is because you'll kind of find other platforms that do really well for you. I think you found that when you left Twitter and you found other platforms, you're like, well, these did really well. But you ultimately found that email did really well. And I think every offer has its platform, and the other platforms are also good, but they're more supplementary. So you kind of find your main, like you'll find your main hub. So it's like,
well, in that case, I got two wives. I got X and Instagram. But like both are working all the time. Like X has been the greatest one for me. But Instagram, man, like we closed maybe like 30% of the clients from last month came from Instagram. And that is 30% of clients compared a like 15,000 follower audience versus a 210,000 follower audience. Like the ratio there tells you that Instagram is way more powerful. At least the way I built it, which is why I'm so like adamant and so annoying and obnoxious, and just build it the right way. Build the thing with whale bait. Like look at the results, look at my engagement. It's quite shit. Like a lot of people just don't engage with my stuff. And sometimes it's hard to find buyers on Twitter, but if you build it the right way on other platforms, like Instagram, it's working really well. And that's why it's worth it doing it the right way from the beginning with whale bait, not fish bait, which is a video you can check on the channel if you want.
Yeah, have you ever met somebody who's like, yeah, I do YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and email, and they all account for exactly 1/5 of my sales? Never happened in my life. I've seen it. It's like everybody has their big platform that accounts for most of their sales at any given month or any given quarter, any given year. And then the other platforms are supplementary, but you're building so that you can kind of build a moat around your business and build a little bit of redundancy, so that, and ultimately that's why you go to email, so that you own your audience. but you're building other platforms so that you can build a moat around your business. But at some point, you need to just start and validate. I don't know, for you probably work with more people that are early stage than I do, but do you have them launch on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter and email all at once if they're at zero? Or do you say focus on one or two?
Neither. I say go private, go DMs. I say craft a small offer that's very targeted to a certain amount of people and get all the maybes. People who told you no, I consider them maybes. People you've talked to in the past, people who've shown interest, and DM them first, validate it first in private. Once you get a bunch of no's and a few yeses, then eventually you start creating a really good offer. That is the one you promote in one channel. So I don't actually validate in a certain platform. I validate privately. And then I make them go in one channel with an offer that's already validated, which is like, if they get 3 sales with 100 people, then it's like, okay, this is worth it. Like we can push this. And we can talk about the pizza email. Remember that email I sent you yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. I think this was good. So I'm going to read you an email I'm going to send. This email will help you sell more of your offer because it's really weird that you send your offer first try and it does great. And then on the second month, you send out the same offer that's better, has more proof, and it does worse. Why? It's because of novelty. Novelty makes every offer better. People love new. It's why they buy the latest iPhone every new year. And this is why they cheat on 10-year relationships just for the thrill of a night. It's because novelty, we're addicted to novelty. It's a drug. People just want dopamine, man. People just want novelty, man. People just want something new. So the way I think about promoting offers is not a big believer in tweaking a lot of your offer. More on this as follows. At the risk of sounding stupid, offers are like pizzas. All pizzas are 95% the same and 5% different. Dough, cheese, sauce, those come with every pizza. Only the topping changes, which is kind of how I think about offers. Offers just stay 95% the same, but change 5% every time you make them. Example, you run a car wash. Everyone gets the exact same offer, car wash. But you can offer a free waxing as well, only if they sign up today. That's how you make the same offer look new every time. You keep 95% the same, but change 5% every time you make it. So example on this, that's actually practical. A few people joined Likes and Cash and a few people left. And last week we had the biggest influx of clients we ever had, and I freaked out because I don't do one-on-one calls, but I sent them all my one-on-one calendar link because I thought they could do really well. So there you go, guys, one-on-one call. And I think the calls were really good. And I actually enjoyed them. Like for me to enjoy Zoom, I hate Zoom, but those were actually kind of nice. And I thought, well, maybe this isn't so bad. So what I did was to the list that I've already pitched this offer. Let me tell you, bro, like the guy that closed with this email, he counted it. He went in his email and counted it. I've sent that guy 530 emails. Can you believe that shit?
That's crazy.
Just from the beginning. And this is the one that converted it. It was the same offer I've been pitching over and over again. But this time I said, for the next 3 people, you get a one-on-one call if you sign up. Fill up the 3 spots. Done. It's the same offer. 95% of the offer stays the same, but you change 5% every time you make it. And that little 5% change, if you make it look huge, it makes it look like an entirely new offer. And that is how you keep promoting the same offer, but you get more sales every time because you change it every time and you have the novelty aspect every time, which means that people will feel like it's new and you're trafficking dopamine and people love that stuff. So change 5% of your offer every time you make it.
I like to do that with current events. Like since my offer is very based on a social media platform, X, I like to then every time something new happens with X, I promote it myself. I'm like, oh, new feature. This is huge for X. X just hit 550 million users. That's huge. Grok AI just dropped. That's huge, right? Ads are back. Huge. We just got a new 100K a month case study. We're back. Like, it's almost like it's always been the 95%, which is, X marketing, but it's always a new topping, which is either a new current event, new news, new feature, new this, new that. So I do that without actually knowing about the pizza analogy, but it's interesting.
Yeah. And you could also run it with times, seasons. It's Black Friday, right? What are you going to do for Black Friday? You can launch a Black Friday special. It's going to be Christmas. What are you going to do for Christmas? It's going to be New Year, New Me on January. What are you going to do? And then it's Valentine's. And then it's fucking St. Patrick's. And then invent something. Maybe it's your birthday, but just have a reason why.
It's interesting.
Like every time you change it.
I never thought he would be this way, but I was listening to the Steve Jobs biography. And I always thought that Steve Jobs would be a lot like Elon Musk or even Jeff Bezos and just say like product. And he was super big on product, but he actually loved advertising. He loved advertising. He actually had a favorite advertising firm in the 80s and 90s when he was coming up and growing the first Apples and the first Macs. And he loved advertising. He would get so creative that he would make advertising to the point where it wouldn't even show the product. He had an ad that was based around that book 1984 by George Orwell, and it was just like all about totalitarianism, like dictators, and it was just like this weird ad, and the actual board hated it because it didn't show the product, didn't show the features or anything like that. But it's just interesting that Steve Jobs loved advertising. It was really keen on it, even though you would always think like Steve Jobs only cared about products. So it's something to think about. I think advertising and marketing is a bit underrated. Like if you can always put a seasonal wrapping on it or some new flavor or something like that, you can kind of just always package it up as something new forever.